The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege, and we're so glad you joined us today because we have another great program coming up. I want to thank my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, for my on-air wardrobe, which is supplied from their boutique and thrift center located at 4415 West Osborne here in Tampa. The net proceeds of what they do there supports their mission, which is providing safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. We also want to, before we start our program, ask you to like and follow the Connecting with Kim Instagram, Facebook, and X account, where you will find out all the information about the show, the broadcast schedule, the guests, and of course, all the items in my on-air wardrobe. So having said that, I also want to remind you that you can catch the audio of this show on Sun Radio, 96.3 FM, and on your favorite streaming platform, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. This is where it all started, and we never wanted to give it up when we moved to TBAE. And we love our TBAE family, and we thank them so much for all of their support. So I met this wonderful man 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, in February, when I started the radio show. And I have watched with wonder and awe and admiration and excitement for how much his life has changed in the past 5 years. Both of us had a lot of big changes. And so he's a returning guest, and I am so delighted to introduce him to you, DANNY ALVAREZ, who is the Florida State Representative for District 69. Welcome back to Connecting with Kim.
Well, thank you. You have definitely changed our surroundings. This is great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. But it was a good move for me, and I'm delighted that Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network asked me to move my show to cable, and it's been a blessing.
Well, they're lucky to have you, but you've definitely found your space. This is awesome.
Thank you. Well, we are thrilled to death that you joined us today, and especially on short notice. I'm very appreciative of that. We start the show the same way every time. We like our guests to share a little bit about their life journey, because I know that it would be hard for you to believe, and it is for me, that someone in Hillsborough County, and indeed in the state of Florida, or perhaps the United States, would not actually know who DANNY ALVAREZ was.
Come on.
Because you are involved. I swear to God, dude, you are involved in so much stuff, and it's all good stuff. But there might be a few people out there, and I just think it might be interesting because you have a very, I know it, but you have a very interesting life journey, so take it away.
Well, first off, I mean, in your tradition, I'd like to first tell the viewers that they're looking at an outfit from Felix Tailoring in West Tampa. All of this was put together in my closet, and the socks are from the state of Florida. So I'm very happy they're matching. I hope I have no holes in my shoes. And we'll get started, and thank you for the people that got this outfit together, which was me. So thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. Okay. Like, sometimes I don't even know how I get dressed in the morning. Like, things are so crazy. At this point in my life, I've finally found a time where I feel like the job is outpacing me, if that makes sense. So,
yeah.
Like, we have 2 staff to do the job. It's incredible. They're incredible teammates. But the volume, like, if you want to do this job right, the volume is high. But that wasn't what you asked. You asked what our journey was. So proudly, I am a first-generation American. And I always start there because you and I should not know each other. But this perverted way of me getting to America, my mom and dad both left Cuba at gunpoint. That was a very seminal act for our family, where we always grew up believing in freedom and liberty and the love for the United States. I mean, legitimately, I would not be born if it wasn't for the United States. So being an American is probably one of the things that I wear on my sleeve the most proud. And it's neat because I've developed this I'm a Floridian thing that's almost equal to it, because it was Florida that opened her doors to my family, and that became our new culture. So I was born in Miami, was raised in Texas for about 12 years. My dad got a job. We broke the atmosphere of the Cuban culture in Miami, went to Texas, and I came back with a Spanish accent, hey y'all, and some boots, and it was like I was a fish out of the water in Miami. But I graduated there, failed out of college in Loyola in New Orleans. I went there. I don't drink, so I want to tell you that. So it was completely my fault, irresponsible, no discipline, no life. My mom came and picked me up with my grandmother and said, "You're done." She probably saved my life when she did that.
She probably did.
I'm telling you, she probably did that. So I went back home, got my life together, went to the University of Florida, graduated from there, went into the Army. And in fact, I should have said this. I started life as a journalist, right? I worked for the Miami Herald for about 7 years, through high school, through college. At that time, they were paying me so well, I was making more money than my parents, so we, to help contribute. I had to ask the Miami Herald and Knight Ridder, which I don't even know if that exists anymore, if they could release me from my obligation because they helped pay through college, so I can go to the military. And back in those days, they were like, absolutely, you want to serve your country, you do that. So I found my passion. I thought I would live and die and retire from the Army, and just, God has a different way of doing it. I met my son's mom. We got out of the Army. We ended up in Tampa. Somehow I became a lawyer, because that is like the least favorite thing for me to tell you about me, but it is something I do. But I'll tell you, so when I left the military, I was listless. Yeah. Okay. Searching for purpose, searching for something. I went from not knowing how much money I made for a living, just knowing that I got paid somehow, it showed up in the bank. I had purpose, I had direction, I cared about a mission, and then now I'm out here in the real world, and I'm I was lost. Yeah. So that's an important part of my story, because I dove into volunteer work so I said, if I can't serve the military and I can't serve my country, maybe I'm serving my fellow man here. But I mean it just wasn't enough. It was filling my cup, but I needed more. So when Sheriff Cronster, Chad at the time,
he's still Chad to us.
He's still Chad. But
we love him.
I had worked as a super volunteer at the Sheriff's Office for about 5 years. I was the president of the Hispanic Advisory Council. I was on their shooting review board. He got appointed and said, "Hey, will you help me out?" I was the first person he ever hired, and I did. I joined, did communications, did some advising, was there for about 3.5 years, and man, I was reborn.
Yeah, right? That's when I met you.
That's right. I was reborn. And I had a lot of legitimacy to make up with those men and women, because they're cops, and here comes this civilian, they don't know me, the boss just hired me.
Who is this guy?
So I lived and died on the streets. I'm telling you, I was 24/7. It felt like I was on call 24/7, but I was on the street all the time. I'd show up at a crime scene. They're like, "Hey, there's no media here." I'm like, "I know. I just kind of want to see what you do." And it was 1 a.m, and I remember that, because to me it was more important that they saw that I was invested in them, and then I fell in love. Right, I fell in love. So soldiers, cops, firefighters, those are my people. Yeah. I call them the true 1% of America, the ones that put uniforms on. And so I knew that after that, they would be my passion point. I ran for judge. I lost. It was extremely humbling.
I remember that so well.
And then, so do I.
Well, we talked right after, right? I mean, because I was fully vested.
I appreciate that, and I do remember that. It's one of those things, you run in a county this size, everybody knows, right? And when you lose, everybody knows, you know what I mean? And so at first, no one wants to talk to you, because they're like, "Man, that's the dude who lost," right? But in reality, for me, it's one of those things where it was such a growth piece, you know? The PBA, the Tampa Police Benevolent Association, I'm their general counsel now. They hired me, and they said, "Hey, we saw what you did for the sheriff's office. Will you do that for us?" And man, I love it. I still am there. It's over 5 years later. I'm still there. I love those men and women equally. I fight for them like an animal. And in fact, it was during COVID that I was negotiating with the city on their behalf to stop the injection, mandated injection, that I got activated to get into formal politics. Because I had been recruited over and over again, And I kind of just got pissed off. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah.
say it that way. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's allowed. That word.
Well, we're not cutting it,
yeah.
so no.
But I was really, really mad. I don't care what your politics are, you or anybody else. You're an American. I fight for you to believe whatever it is that you want.
Right.
But we believe in individuals.
Well,
right?
that's the bedrock of our system.
That is. And
Right,
we
it's bedrock.
believe in the individual has the right to self-determine their life. That's what
And
my
believe whatever they want,
And-
no matter how misguided or guided it is,
100%.
right?
You do you, I do me.
Yes,
As long
that's
as
it.
you doing you doesn't interfere with
Exactly.
me doing me,
Exactly.
then we're going to be great.
We're gonna be great.
And at that point, I was like, man, if we can force someone to do this, what do we? And you know what else really made me mad? The curfew. I remember I was running for judge, and this was not good. I'm just telling you, I shouldn't have done this, but I was so mad when Hillsborough County put up a curfew.
Mm-hmm.
I started driving around. I was like, I hope someone will arrest me. You know what I mean? And I was like, I've never been arrested. I've never been in trouble. I was like, what am I doing? But it was like this mini act of defiance that I felt proud, and no one ever saw it. That I was like,
Well, because everybody's biting my curfew.
I'm an American.
Yeah.
No one is going to lock me down,
Right.
right, in my own city, in the state of Florida. So then I ran for office. And the rest was history. That's why I ran for office.
So I was just thinking about, when you ran for judge and you didn't win, and I remember we talked then that night, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm so sorry. But sometimes God clears something out of your
100%.
way to bring something to you that's way more
100%,
important.
100%.
And I think since you've been elected, that was the election of 2022, and reelected in 2024,
Yes, ma'am.
and hopefully reelected in 2026.
We're working on it.
The commitment that you had and the love that was expressed for you during that campaign was amazing. I always ask everybody that gets elected to the Florida, either the Senate or the House, what was your biggest surprise when you showed up there?
Well, I thought we'd all be like one big kumbaya, just because we have a super majority, so everyone there has an R behind their name, and you think like, oh, I'm gonna get anything I want done here. That is not the truth. That is not the truth in any way whatsoever. It's a lot harder, number one, to get, and we want it that way. Just to be fair, like you don't want to be able to like pass a law just because
just rubber stamp everything.
You don't want that. You don't want that. The other part that is the most surprising is the level of commitment. All right. So when I first went in, I got a lot of kids. Now I have 7 total.
I
okay?
know. You do have
And
a lot of children.
2 of them are out. One's about to leave. So we have 5. We've called Gen 1, Gen 2. Gen 1's almost out. Gen 2 is still in. This job is like being a paratrooper. It's a whole lot of buck for a very little bang, okay? I love being on the floor, and I don't need anybody to feel sorry for me. And if you're hearing this on the radio, I need you to understand I love what I do. But like a paratrooper, you sit in the harness, you get inspected, then you sit there, then you get on the airplane and you circle for hours, and then you jump out of the plane and you have like 45 seconds of glory, and then you slam into the earth, right? And so you're like, wow, what was that about, right? And so that's this job. So, people go up there and they like their name in lights. That, it's not about that. They like a title. It's not about that. You're legitimately there to work and lead, right? And so I have broken ranks with a lot of colleagues in the sense that a lot of them are just there. You can do nothing in the Florida House and get reelected. I'm just telling you that right now, right? You can go there, do nothing, and get reelected. And to me, that's sad if you waste that opportunity, right? You sent me up there to do something, and I'm going to go do it, right? I'm not going to leave my children and leave the flag football game that my daughter played that I didn't
Right.
watch one game this last time.
Right.
And again, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm just saying it's got to be worth the rub. So we go up there and work. We pass a whole lot of bills, and I got made a chair this year. I did not expect to be made a chair. I thought I'd be like a super sophomore where I could like run a lot of work. The most surprising part is the time. Like you look around and you're like, man, this is a huge investment. I go to Tallahassee for 8 weeks allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then beforehand it's like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But when we're home, every constituent has a problem, you know what I mean? And we got to try to fix it. Everyone wants you to come talk to them, and then there's
Right.
issues. So all of it is a full. It's like literally 2
It's
full-time
literally a full-time
jobs.
job.
Yeah, I had to shut my law firm down.
I know. So if you're just joining me now on Connecting with Kim, my guest on the chair is DANNY ALVAREZ, who is the Florida State Representative for District 69. We probably should have talked about before we move on, because I have another question. Describe for people District 69.
So if Hillsborough County was a square, it's the southeast corner of Hillsborough County.
That's a great way to describe it. Because I know that since you were elected in 2022, I know you've always had a close relationship with law enforcement, firefighters, etc. But you've also embraced agriculture.
That's right.
Because you and I are both members of the Cattlemen's
That's right.
Foundation. I love the work they do. I love being part of that group.
I do too.
I love those guys and ladies that comprise that foundation. So that was your biggest surprise. What has been your biggest delight?
The constituent work, right? I would go through all of this just to be able to, in little packets, reinvigorate and refresh what you believe your interaction with government can be, right? So I'm extremely parochial, which means like if you hired me to fight and defend District 69, that's where we start. And then I'm East County, and then I'm Hillsborough County, right? And then everything in between, and then Florida. I fight like an animal. Those people will call and be like, hey, Danny, we're having this problem. And then I hate and love, right? Like you shouldn't need Danny Alvarez to fix your problem that the state of Florida said that you had a right to, that you had a benefit of, that they should just be doing by simple process. But I love being able to call or have my office call and we fix it for them and we turn and we say, ma'am, sorry for the hiccup, but this is your government and this is how it works. If there's anything we can do for you, please call us back. We get calls about federal issues. We get calls about all sorts of stuff. And I tell my staff, listen, this might be, besides interacting with a police officer, this might be the only time a citizen interacts with their government. We want to make sure that that experience is a good one. You know what I mean?
I see you involved in so many things that are not District 69 related.
Right.
And you and I had this talk privately a little while ago. God calls certain people. I really believe this.
I agree with that.
And God calls certain people, and you're always asking yourself, why me? And this is really somebody else's job, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, that passion and that commitment and that devotion overrules all of those things going on in your head, right? I mean, you've been in Israel this year.
That's right.
Talk about some of the other organizations that you're involved with and work with, because honestly, I see you everywhere.
Well, remember that little parochial thing I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
So everything we do has some nexus to the benefit of District 69, right?
Right.
And that's how it's supposed to be. But what really you hired me to do is go run the state government, right? You have your local government, which I have incredible partners here. Like I have Christine Miller, I have Chris Bowles, Josh Wostel, great partners here. It's our constitutionals. But really, I am focused on running the state in the best, most efficient manner that gives the product that we pay for, right? So why am I in Israel? Well, we just said we would go invest in Israel. We said we would go defend Israel. As a state of Florida, we said we would stand up for Israel. Well, I want to go see what are we going? What are we doing?
Standing up
what
for,
are we standing
right?
up for?
Yeah.
Right? If we're gonna,
I was so worried when you went there because of everything that had been going on there lately.
yeah, it was.
I'm sure your family was too.
They were. It was hotter, but like the time to lead is not when from the safe, secure position. The time to
Right.
lead is when things are going on, so you
Right.
can see what the truth is, right? So for me, I like to get my hands dirty and get in there. This is no prima donna work. You can do it prima donna if you
Right.
want to, but
I like that you don't.
thank you.
No, I mean
I
that
just don't know any.
sincerely.
I don't know any
You
other
don't
way.
know any
I don't
other
know any
way.
way. But like for example, look at this. Like look at it this way. So one of my focuses will be that for the rest of my time there is the safety and security of Florida. We're 67 counties. We've delegated the authority for your safety to a sheriff in that county, and then sometimes to a city, right? And we say, hey, sheriff, you're in charge of this section. You got it? Got it. And they're doing a great job. But who is looking overall at the state of Florida? We've got FDLE, we've got FWC, we've got FHP. Are they talking to each other? Are foreign bad actors looking at us and going, man, we can take advantage? We are the 14th largest economy in the world if we were standalone. We're the third largest state, and we're growing, right? So what used to be our borders that would defend us and our disorganization, meaning our purposeful decentralization, was a benefit to us. Now that crime knows no border, like immigration knows no border, economic attacks know no border, we've got to think of Florida as a standalone, almost country, right? And are we doing best by her right now? So, for example, one of my proposals we're running this year is unified 911. So each county today does 911 however they want. They just have to have a system. So if you're in Plant City and you're driving on I-4 and there's an accident, you might get picked up by the Plant City 911. You might get picked up by Hillsborough, right? The Hillsborough Sheriff. And if you get the Hillsborough Sheriff, is it a medical emergency? Is it a police emergency? They might transfer you again. Our goal is one call, no transfer, good guys come. It's what you paid for. It's what you expect. But it goes deeper than that. If we have a problem, right, an emergency in Hillsborough County, we have 4 or 5 different 911 centers that may not be talking to each other. And we know bad guys are now focused on Florida, and they know how we react, right? They see what our active shooter protocol.
Yeah, because they study it.
They study us left and right. The way you fight bad guys in the military, right, is with centralized command and control so that we understand where our resources and assets are. We're going to do that in the state of Florida, county by county. So right now, about 27 counties already have unified 911 centers. What we're going to say is each county is required to have a unified 911 center. We'll leave it up to you how you want to do it. And at the end of like the 4-year like glide slope, if you don't do it, your sheriff is going to take over. And that's going to tell all the chiefs of police, all the fire chiefs, hey guys, we need everyone in on this. This is the direction we're going. It's not just about Hillsborough anymore, right? It's about the state of Florida, and we're keeping us all safe because crime knows no boundaries, right? Neither do terrorists, and neither do bad foreign actors.
Well, and when someone, our friend Chris Bowles has been on this program repeatedly doing a series to educate folks. At the end of the day, when you and I dial 911, yeah, we don't care about all that other stuff. We want someone to come help us right now.
That's exactly right.
And we don't care what's going on behind the scenes. We don't care about your administrative policies. We don't care about we want someone to come and help us because obviously we dialed that number for a reason.
100%. And think about it, 911 systems are costing more money than you can imagine.
Oh,
right?
I can.
And it keeps...
Especially if they're all separate.
Yeah, it keeps costing even more, right? So unifying is a level of efficiency. It's a level of cost savings. And the other part, too, is our human resource. 911 operators and dispatchers are literally having the same levels of PTSD, mental health issues, because they hear the call, right? They work these 12-hour A and B shifts, and then they hang up, and then what we tell them is, hey, take your next call. You see what I'm saying? And so we are saying, hey, do that for 30 years, 12 hours a day. Right?
Well, plus they stay on the phone with people while the first responders are arriving, because sometimes they have to stay on the phone with people and talk them down or help them, right?
I remember being at the sheriff's office one time, and we had a really bad day, right?
Yeah.
And I went to the 911 center, and the leader there that day, he took everyone off that squad and called in the other squad because they were zapped, right? I mean, it was a big call. Yeah. Now, that was some really forward thinking and leaning, but when you have like a smaller city, like a Temple Terrace, a USF, a Plant City, well, your depth is this, right?
Right.
And so, sorry, partner, that's all we got. So, I truly believe this will keep us safer and make Florida safer. And it's just one of the steps.
Tell me any other thing you want to share that you're working on that you want people to be, because this is a great one, but is there anything else you want to share?
So for my big three, and these are what you'll see me working in, is first responders and soldiers, veterans. Agriculture, like you said, like this one, safety and security first. We have no society. It's government's first responsibility. But if we don't protect our food, right? You're like, I've never gotten dirt under my nails. I've never worked a tractor. But if we don't protect those guys and gals and keep them in the field, we will bend our knee, right, in the field to our enemy.
Exactly.
Right? And so we did it during COVID when Smithfield Farms sent our pork to China when it should have been staying here to lower our prices. We can't have that happen. So we have to defend Florida agriculture like animals, okay? And that's my commitment. And the third is infrastructure. Man, it took me a while to get here today, right, with the traffic. And there's every time we spend money, I feel like it's
and
never enough.
This isn't even snowbird season yet.
Yeah, or rush hour.
Yeah.
Right? So think about it. So
right.
Those are the three things that I focus on.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the focus on agriculture because I had not realized. I sat at the last Cattlemen's Foundation dinner that we were both at.
Right.
And you always help do the cooking, which I really love. I sat with law enforcement, and because they asked me to. And a lot of those guys that I sat with are involved in agricultural crime.
That's right.
And so I was talking to them during dinner, like, tell me the kind of stuff you get involved in, because I'd really have no idea. All my family are farmers. I grew up on farms. I spent my childhood on farms. But tell me because it's a totally different world now.
It is.
I was like shocked at what
Listen, last year I've run the agricultural package now called the Farm Bill for 3 years in a row. I'm going to run it again this year. It was 85 pages, right?
Yeah.
85-page long bill. Farming is so integrated. Like there's so many agricultural crimes, trespassing, poaching. You're growing your food wrong. You're trying to pretend you're a farm when you're not a farm for tax purposes. There's a ton of stuff that goes on in there. We just can't be blind to it.
No, we
it's
can't.
A big deal. And by the way, Hillsborough County's Ag Unit is standard setting in the state.
Oh, I know they are. And also, food production is critical to what we do as a country. We're the most efficient at it, I think, in the world, actually.
That's right.
And I agree with you that feeding ourselves in a development. Well, I'm an econ major, so you look at how do countries develop. Well, one of the things they have to be able to do to develop is to be able to grow and feed their population.
100%.
It's like a fundamental thing.
100%.
You can't grow to anything else.
Okay.
So we only have 2 minutes left. I promise to give you a little bit of time to look in that camera and deliver any message that you want to our viewers and our listeners.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that, Kim, and thank you for the opportunity. If you're listening to my voice or you're seeing me on camera right now, this is a very important message I want to tell you. When I got elected to this position, I didn't get elected as a Republican and I didn't get elected as a conservative. I got elected as the representative of all the people. And I take that extremely serious. I know that we are in crazy times where everyone thinks they have to pick a side. I don't believe that way. I may be a Republican by decree because you have to have a party. I believe myself to be a leader in this community, and that means if you have an issue, whether it's in our district or in our county, or something's happening or someone's doing wrong, I want to know about it. I promised that I would lead forward-leaning, Florida first, our family and God, and I promised that from the day I was born to the day I'm gone, that's going to be the way I raise my family and the way I take this job very, very seriously. We live in an incredible time, in an incredible state that takes your liberty and your freedom extremely seriously. If someone ever goes to infringe on that, I want you to tell me. Just remember, there's a great pride in being an American, a great pride in being a Floridian. I believe it, and I want you to do the same.
Danny, I can't thank you enough for being my guest today and returning to Connecting with Kim. It's been a real honor.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. We're having a love fest here. It's so good. That's what I love about what I do. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining us today on Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege, and our guest in the chair today has been Danny Alvarez, who is the Florida State Representative for District 69. So if you're just joining us now and tuning in, you better go back and watch the entire interview because it's going to be phenomenal. And I appreciate my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides my on-air wardrobe. They provide safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children, and they've been doing a great job for more than 40 years. So we thank you. We ask you to come back next week for another great edition of Connecting with Kim. So long, farewell, take care.